Hey, what's up? Welcome to the second episode of Conscious Conversations. I'm here with Bruce, all the way from Hong Kong, Discovery Bay. I met Bruce.
How did we meet? Back? 2 months ago, yeah.
2 months ago at a wellness festival, Arch. Shout out to Arch. And he was doing some Reiki. You know, I had a vibe that I should talk to him, talk about the third eye. And, you know, he's really nice. And I actually did a Reiki course at his place here. Yep. And so today we met up again, spontaneously out here, breathing in that good ass prana. So today in this episode, we're going to talk a lot about just spirituality, just understanding Bruce's experience and things like that. Yep. Just have a good conversation about spirituality.
Yep. Sweet. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, so my name's Bruce. I'm an energy healer based in Hong Kong. So you can check me out at brucechi.org, BRUCECHI.org to see more about what I do. But energy healing and all things with the movement of chi, otherwise called prana or whatever you want to call it. But that's the whole thing. So my whole goal is to help people unlock that flow of energy, which then helps them step towards their more true or pure self.
Awesome. So I want to ask you, Bruce, first of all, what is your definition of spirituality? I want to start off there.
Man, that's a big question. Because the definition of that is going to be, in my opinion anyways, it's going to be more about what it is to the individual person, right? So it's like a spiritual person is a person that's on their true path, whatever that may be.
Okay.
Like if you are a professional golfer and you are on that path and all you do is eat, breathe, sleep, golf, but you do it with love and compassion, then that's your path. You know what I'm saying? That's your spirituality. You find people will find Zen or that level of space or that groundedness in almost anything that they do, you know? So like if you're open to that flow without harming anybody else, and what I mean by that is like in that idea of the golfer, of course, if you eat, sleep, and breathe golf, but then you are neglecting your family, then you're not on your path. If you're causing harm to other people, you're not on your path. You know what I'm saying? So like for other people that might be represented with deities, with a religion, with a meditation practice, could be with cooking, could be with anything. As long as you're being led by that kind of presence, that energy that radiates from all of us, if you let that take over, that's spirituality, in my opinion.
Beautiful. And talk to me a little bit more about the path. So what does that mean? Is there something that's predetermined, or what do you mean by when you talk about the path?
Yeah, I mean, this is almost like the big question, right? It's like, how do we know? We always throw that word around like our destiny, or how do we always feel that there's some sort of like coincidental path laid out for us? Like doors seem to just open at random times and we walk through it and we think it's a coincidence, and it's not. None of these things are coincidental. It's like that. So in many ways, you can think that the path has already been laid out. This leads to a much deeper conversation on like, is this predetermined, all that type of stuff in destiny. We can leave that aside for the moment, but it's more like, we've got a saying that if you follow your heart, right? So anybody that's following their heart and they follow that with honesty, then that path is going to unfold for them, right? So you're going to be walking almost as if like that chi, that energy that's through us, it's almost like it's just a couple of steps in front of us. And if it's a couple steps in front of you and you're constantly following it and you trust it, then it's never going to guide you incorrectly. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to be, it always knows which way you need to go. It knows the direction in life that you should be on. And if it's not submitting has a negative connotation. It's more about surrender from a state of love and compassion. If we surrender to that direction, then all of a sudden you find that resistance, stress, turmoil, illness, all that type of stuff starts to evaporate out of your life. Because all of those things are a sign to try to get you to wake up.
Got you.
You know what I mean? Like if you're on the wrong path, that path's going to become more and more and more aggressively cumbersome or difficult or burdensome until you get off that path, until you listen to the energy.
So let's follow the heart, make sure you're on the right path.
Yeah.
And there's as if there's something even bigger than us that's kind of doing a little bit of guidance and some sort of understanding.
And for everybody listening, like that becomes your own personal discussion.
Right.
Like if you're religious, fine, then it's a deity. You know what I'm saying? If you're an atheist, then fine, it's the universe or it's happenstance, coincidence. It doesn't make any difference what you want to call it.
Right.
There's always something, and everybody would have this experience. There's always something that's pulling you or feeling like you're being guided by an invisible hand almost.
Can you share a little bit about what are your most profound spiritual experiences that, you know, in your lifetime so far?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been a lot of big ones, but I'll keep it all really short because it's got the same kind of universal thread. And if you can constantly just surrender to the unknown, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where I'm going tomorrow. I don't know what direction my healing work is going to take. But the idea is always to just be like, if I can surrender now and be led, just being led by love, being led by kindness, then I'm going to follow that path. Even if it's like me kind of blindly walking into the future, then I'm going to be led on that path. And the profound spiritual experiences I have all had that common thread in them. And what I mean by that is like, when I'm stepping into a new paradigm of my own understanding of energy, maybe that when I was like 15 and I was like, oh, okay, yoga seems pretty cool, so I'll do that. And I did that for a while, didn't know what I was doing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, somebody would just pop into my life and they would take me under their wing as if they were a teacher. And it was always that I would be taught exactly what I needed to be taught at that moment to help my stability. Not anything too advanced, not anything too basic. You know what I'm saying? It was always like the right exact amount of information that I needed to grow at that moment. And once that was digested, then it's like I'd gone up a step in my own spiritual understanding. And who knows? I mean, I must have a trillion more steps to go up, like everybody does, you know what I'm saying? But those are always be on the lookout for the seemingly random teacher, the seemingly random person that pops into your life. Yeah.
Bruce, speaking, like, but for me right now, for example, when I meditate, I feel like I go to another zone. It's like a whole new experience I don't experience in this normal life, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm dreaming. Like last night I had this crazy dream where I'm like literally in outer space and I really felt I was there. When I wake up, I was like, oh my goodness, did that just really happen? Like, so, you know, right now sometimes I feel like a pulling sensation in my third eye, but it's not like completely open. But like for you, is there those, you know, because a lot of people sometimes say like, oh, spirituality is very woo-woo, but it's not until you experience it, you understand it just can't be explained. And for you, what are those kind of like profound one or two moments that really like, oh, okay, oh, maybe this is a little glimpse of that?
Yeah, I mean, so like in my meditation practice, I'll have every once in a while, maybe, I don't know, let's just say casually once a month, something like that, I'll have a meditation that's really deep and I'll feel unmistakable flows of energy moving through my body where I can feel like the muscles in my back are rippling literally as if there's snakes moving up the body.
Right.
And there's no way to prove that. There's no way to quantify it. But also, if I was to say, like, right now to you, or if somebody was to tell me, like, hey, make it feel so that the lower muscles on the small of your back tense and everything else releases, and then it's like a rhythmic movement of those muscles, there's no way I could replicate that. So there's something else going on here. Now, I'm very sympathetic of the idea, like, is that just mind over matter? Am I so relaxed that the body is releasing stress in rhythmic waves? Maybe. But at the same time, then I'm also having a lot of visual experiences. I'm having a lot of sensatory experiences where the feeling of these snakes moving up the back. It's a deeply spiritual thing because all cultures have shared that same idea, like the idea of the cosmic serpent, right? The anaconda. You talk about people on ayahuasca, they see this all the time. The big cosmic snakes, right? The feminine and the male anacondas of creation, of DNA, right? I mean, once you have some, and that can be different for everybody. That can be sometimes people, in my opinion, there's no difference in that than somebody who has spent their entire life being like a devout Catholic and they have a vision of Mary or Jesus or whatever. It's the same thing. Like you're having a mystical experience. How can those people like that can't explain it either? Where is it coming from? But it's because I'm a Christian. Yeah, fair enough. But some Christians never see Mary. You know what I'm saying? Like why do we have these experiences? And when they come, like you said appropriately, we can't explain it. Do we have to explain it?
Right.
I don't think so, right? Mm-hmm. You can just be in it. In those moments of that truth, of that flow of energy, what I quite often tell my clients or myself when I'm trying to do that meditation, when I'm in that depth, then you ask questions, right? You ask for the guidance. Ask for that deep level of guidance. Like, I'm here. Guide me. If I need to be led, guide me. You know what I'm saying? If I need to learn, teach me. If I need to experience, show me. Stuff like that. Get out of the way. Get the ego out of the way. Not like I need to learn where my next job is. That's the ego. If I'm meant to learn something, then just teach me. And it's like this. Just surrender to it. You know what I'm saying? And
it's funny. I was literally thinking about ego, and then you just said it. I think for a lot of people, and including myself, understanding ego and letting the ego go is a big step towards really understanding that you're not just your mind. So can you speak a little bit about like maybe tuning into more of the being instead of like more into the ego? Like how can like a normal person that might be new to spirituality like have more of that experience?
Yeah, for sure. Anybody who's new to this practice, the first and foremost thing that I can recommend is just slowing down the breath. That's it. So you find that if people do box breathing, like box breathing is so easy. You just inhale for 6 seconds, hold for 6 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds. That's it. And then go to 8, go to 10. If you find that to be really easy, all the way up for 8, hold, and then exhale. And eventually what you're going to find after only about 5 or 6 minutes is that the consciousness, the ego-driven consciousness starts to fade away, right? That's it. That's ego. That's the subtle disillusion of the ego. And what you're doing is then you're getting into more the parasympathetic, the subconscious, right? You're getting into that voice within. Like in the States, we always talk about like Jiminy Cricket, little tiny crickets from some Disney movie or whatever, but it's like the little cricket inside of us is trying to tell you what to do in a gentle way, in a positive way. It's the voice of the subconscious. That voice that we can simultaneously never hear because it's not loud enough, but at the same time we can never forget it because it's always present. You know what I mean? The ego is what's keeping us from listening to that. That's the truth.
Got you.
So yeah, just bring the breath down. That's it. First and foremost, bring the breath down. Then you can go into meditation. Then you can go into your yoga practice. You can do whatever it is you want to do, right? But everybody who is breathing at a state that is too rapid, you're never going to get there.
Right. Because sometimes you've been so in your head, and then that breath just brings you back more, your attention more outwards or wherever you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
When you want to direct it.
Exactly.
Got you.
The monkey mind is a mind of chatter, right? So it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's everywhere. Meditation is nothing more than a focus on one singularity. That's it. So like people who fly fish, right? The focus is on the cast. So it's meditative. That's no different than doing yoga. It's no different than breathing. It's no different than anything else. Because in that moment, their breathing is naturally slow. Their breathing is naturally rhythmic. They're not worried about what's going on at home. They're not worried about what's going on in the next state or where they're going to go for a vacation or whatever. They're worried about making that one thing correct. The same with meditation, same thing with the breath, right? So if you can do that, if you can bring the awareness to the breath and make it slow, then everything else falls away. Everything else falls away.
And you're in that present.
Yeah. And in that presence, then the subconscious flourishes, right? And that subconscious is nothing more than chi. It's nothing more than the energy that we already have within us. And that energy flows and radiates through not only us, but everything, every living being, every essence on this planet and on this universe, right? So we are tapped into almost like the universal power supply, if you will, to the grid. Or to the matrix, if you want to be cliched about it. You know what I'm saying? And once you've tapped directly into it, then that's what you are. You simply are that, right?
So you're saying when we are able to get present, we are able to tap into our subconsciousness.
Yeah.
And that subconscious is very powerful.
Completely.
And so this leads to my next question very beautifully is, like, for example, I'm someone that I'm not aware of spirituality. My friends don't talk about it. Our family don't talk about it. Our school doesn't talk about it. I'm just like a normal, like very hardworking, ambitious 9-to-5 guy, or I have a business I'm running, or whatever it might be. But I'm curious about spirituality, but at the same time, it's not very scientific or anything like that. So, how can spirituality really benefit me in terms of like how can it make me more successful, or how can it contribute to my life? Like,
for sure.
Yeah, why should I even step into this journey?
So look, when I do this type of stuff from a coaching perspective, like when I work with corporations or when I work with people who are not out of any criticism, but because they crave that kind of linear discussion or that rational scientific mindset, right? This is no different. If the idea is how can it benefit me, if you can distill down all of the chatter in the monkey mind, right? If you can distill down and remove all of the worry, the stress, the anxiety, the whatever it is that's plaguing us, right? When you get down to that stillness, then you can ask yourself any question you wish. You know what I mean? Like if you are at the top of some Fortune 500 trading company, get down to that stillness. And when you're there, when you're quiet, just ask a question like, how can I further succeed? What are the barriers to what are my limitations and barriers in this job? And the truth comes up. Now, and I say this all the time, I say it almost every day with my clients actually, is sometimes that truth might be difficult to hear. Like sometimes you might be in that stillness and you say, what's my limitation? Get a divorce. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a massive jump. Like it's a massive bit of truth to hear. So now you're faced with two different avenues, right? If that's the truth, and if you need to separate, or you need to get a new job, or you need to do whatever, right? If you have to climb Everest, if you have to overcome something that seems insurmountable, you're either going to do that and prosper, or you're not going to do it, and you're going to live a life that is constantly in resistance. You know what I mean? Like you work a job you want to work, I work a job I want to work. Take that 180 degrees and put us into something that we hate. There's no way that it's going to fit. How on earth am I going to be a healthy, fulfilled person? It's nonstop resistance. Same idea. So that in and of itself, getting down to that level of quiet, that level of peace, that level of truth, that gives you your way forward.
Okay, so it's like a very good way of guiding yourself and finding again, back to the path and that kind of stuff again.
Yeah.
But for example, this is just, I don't even know this answer, but let's say I'm in that stillness and I ask that question and get a divorce type,
like some massive problem comes up or whatever?
Massive problem comes up.
Yeah.
How would I know that's not just, that's the truth versus that's just another voice?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You can be in that moment again and again and again and again. Okay? So, look, I deal with health anxiety, for instance, and it pops its head up all the time. And I have to go back to the same exact process, getting into that stillness. And then literally what I do every time is just show me that this is not something to worry about. That's it. And then boom, it goes away. Right? And what I'm saying here is this, if some massive problem comes up and you want to figure out, is it true or not? Then you go back to the stillness again, ask the same question again, and see if it comes up again. Okay. And again, and again, and again. And it's going to come up until you are either A, courageous enough or ready enough to tackle it, right? Or B, it's not going to come up again, and you're going to be like, okay, maybe that was actually just my fear or my limitation speaking or my shadow trying to tempt me away from the path, right? And you'll find quickly after repetitious meditation and getting into that stillness, you'll find that the truth will start to float to the surface. The repetition of the truth will become unavoidable at some point. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And why do you think the subconscious knows?
That's the $1 million question, right? That's this is the root of philosophy, the root of religion, the root of everything. It comes to the idea of how to distill that down. Are we in this? Is this reality? Is it a simulation? Is there a deity, an all-caring deity that's moving us forward? Is it something that we can actually see into the future? And that bit I'll speak to actually, because if this energy, this chi that moves through us is not just us, but it's universal. So if it's moving through everything, and if we can connect to it, then it has, I don't want to use the word intelligence because I don't want to freak people out on that, but there's intelligence or information within that energy that we can utilize or we can read. And that might be the easiest way to answer it. Imagine if you could, imagine it like this, if you could connect to yourself tomorrow, if you could call a number on that phone and you could call yourself tomorrow and that never failed you, well then you could run the world, right? Because you would know everything. Energy is much the same way. Energy is not bound by time or space. So when we have things like clairvoyance or telepathy or deja vu or all of these things that are and I mean proper clairvoyance. I don't mean coincidental. I mean people who are actually clairvoyant. How can they do that? How can they predict the future with accuracy? A lot of people are charlatans in that. I admit to that 100%. But I also want to say that's what I think we're doing. How does something know that we're being guided that way? Maybe because it's already there. Maybe because it's already living. Maybe we've already lived it many times and we have to just continue to do it. Who knows, right? There's no way to know that.
So Bruce, it's awesome that you said the benefits of spirituality again is to tap into your subconsciousness, able to draw guidance from within, even be more present in the moment, getting the breath. I love that. But for example, how that sounds really cool, really awesome, but I'm a little bit intimidated by spirituality. Let's say I'm interested, but I don't really know how to get into it. I know about meditation, but I can't really quiet my mind. So like you talk a little bit about breathing is the first step to get into this whole thing. But is there any more tips and advice that you would give to people that are curious about it and want to dip their water in there a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So like if you're slowing the breath, that's always going to be the first step. Always getting that breath calm and relaxed, right? If you're finding that like you want to go a little bit deeper, then you can again stay with the breath work, because for sure the idea of like spirituality could be too metaphysical. It could be too woo-woo. Like a lot of people are saying, I need more of a rational understanding on this type of stuff. Sweet, that's where you are. Embrace that's where you are. You know what I mean? It's not a competition. So what I would suggest is that you go into some deeper breath work. You can look this stuff up online, on YouTube. There's hundreds of videos on holotrophic breathing, the Wim Hof breath method. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these breathing methods, what you're doing is you're going deeper and deeper into the subconscious. And that's going to give you a deeper connection to that reality. You can call that reality whatever you want. Like when I'm working with people that are hyper type A, like bankers and scientists and all these types of people, I don't frame it in any type of word. It's not that one way is correct and one way is not. But if I start framing the movement into the subconscious as anything metaphysical, anything kind of energy related, that's probably going to shut some doors pretty quickly, right? All you're doing with the breath is quieting down the nervous system, quieting down the brain, and allowing all of that energy to just flow through your nerves. That's it. So if your brain can communicate effortlessly with your entire body, then automatically your well-being, your healing, all of that stuff skyrockets, right? And also the subconscious comes out. So what I'm saying is, if you find that the initial breathing is like, okay, sweet, I feel relaxed, but I don't know if that was good enough, look up holotrophic breath work, or look up the Wim Hof method. That's going to take you another step deeper. Or like everybody does yoga. That's awesome, right? If anybody watching this is a yogi, or you've got a normal yoga practice, instead of trying to nail the pose, which is not what yoga is about, actually it's about the breath, right? So make sure the breathing is in sync. Make sure that the breath is all in sync and the rhythm of the breath is what you're focused on. And at some point, there's going to be something where like you could be doing your sun salutations or warrior or whatever type of hatha flow you're doing or whatever. Right. There's going to be a moment where it just snaps. And the only thing that there is not the pose, but the breath. And you could be there forever. It's that blissful nirvana state, whatever you want to call that, it doesn't matter.
Cool.
The more you can dip into that, like you were saying, you can dip your toes into that water. The more you can dip into that, the more it's going to become accessible.
How about for maybe a little bit of intermediate and advanced people, can you just do a quick rapid fire of like, all the things that there might be able to do, like, like fasting, like meditation, retreats, like...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So heavy sauna usage, right? So what I'm saying by that is like going into a sauna and sweating so much that you become almost delirious.
Okay.
Right? And remember, everything is about a movement of energy, right? So sweat is a release of energy from the body. Obviously, your body's trying to release heat, right? If you are releasing that much energy that quickly, it can put you into an altered state of consciousness. I don't mean like you're going to pass out. When I use a sauna, and I use it all the time, even here in Hong Kong, even though we live in a sauna, I'm sitting there in the sauna doing hard meditation and pranayama work, because the heat is an added level of depth to it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like you mentioned fasting. Okay, so that's awesome. That's a fantastic example. You want to try out fasting? Try it for intermittent fasting. Just try to fast for 18 hours a day, right? Yeah. See how that works. If that works well, then start to do a fruit juice fast or a vegetable juice fast for a week. If you can handle that, go on to a water fast. Water fast for 10 days, 14 days, a month, whatever. In all of those practices, you still keep the breath work, you still keep the meditation, you still keep your yoga or whatever your meditative practice is, and you keep adding those layers. If that's not enough, go do a Vipassana retreat, or go on a yoga retreat, or go to a silent retreat. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these types of things that you can research, you can find out what's comfortable for you, and then you can dive into it. And there's a million of different things, right? You can learn a new trade. You can go get another degree. All of these things, it's like a focused awareness of not only the self, but also your path.
Right.
You know?
It's like there's so many tools out there, but at the end of the day, it's like, what are you drawn to? What are you ready for? And then like follow that guide again.
That's it.
Right.
So we bring that back a couple questions ago. How do you find that path? You find that path by getting the breath down, getting the stillness there, and then asking.
Got you.
Something like what I'm always saying is you want to make sure that those statements are completely ego-less. So there's no ego in it. So you say something like, lead me and I'll follow. And then meditate on that one statement. Not like, I want to get a degree, should I study economics? That's like pure ego. Should I? You know what I'm saying? Versus lead and I surrender.
So how would you ask the same question?
Lead and I surrender. I would, like, if I'm trying to go to a degree, if I'm trying to study something, I might do meditation, might get into that space of calmness and quiet. And I would say something like, if I'm on the correct path, my desire, my human desire is to study, fill in the blank, economics, philosophy, whatever. My human desire is this. Shall it be done? And just let it go. Or,
that's huge.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You surrender. And you have to surrender to the idea that your human desire could be ego-based and it could be leading you on the wrong path. I don't know. I'm not trying to be misquoted on this because I know what I'm saying is not the exact quote. But it's like, I think there's something in Christianity where it was like, ask and ye shall receive, or let thy bidding be done, or something like that. And apologies for not knowing the exact line, but it's the same idea. Like, here's what I think, here's the context that I think, but I give it to this unknown. And if it's correct, guide me. If it's not, guide me. I surrender. It's all about surrender.
That's huge, because a lot of times, like when we want to make big decisions, like should I get into a marriage? Should I move to a new country? Like we're so scared of getting into the unknown because we don't know how it's going to work out. And most people like certainty. Most people like, a feeling of comfort. We don't want to get out of our comfort zones, right? That's right. And so for me, like taking this gap year, or maybe before I had to exchange my schools, these were kind of like the things that I was going through at that time that was really scary to me, and I really didn't have the tool to know what was the right direction or the right answer. And I try to listen to my intuition or the thoughts that comes up, but sometimes I don't know, is it just another thought, or is it just really what I'm supposed to do, or something that is guiding me. So you just gave a really good and practical, or be present, get into that zone, and be open to receiving, be open to surrender to whatever comes up. So it's like a big tool for people to make decisions, right? So that's awesome.
And you just listen, right? You try to get, look, the ego, quite often in spirituality, or energy discussions, or whatever you want to call it, metaphysical, yogic discussion, doesn't make any difference. Quite often people are just like the ego is this, it's so bad we have to kill it, we have to destroy it. Buddhism is all about cessation of the ego because it creates suffering. That's all very true, no criticism whatsoever. But we also have to remember that the ego is there to keep us alive. You know what I'm saying? From a survival mechanism, the ego is your friend. The ego is going to be like, you're not jumping into the unknown, because if you do that, you might not be able to feed yourself. You might not be able to have a stable family. You might have to get a divorce. You might have to, you might be in another country and everything's going to be way worse. So there's got to be a balance here, right?
Right.
I'm not saying to just let the ego go. At the end, that's the point. Yeah. At the end, you should be so limitless that the energy just guides you, right? And the ego has to surrender. It dies at some point. But until we're there, which is very, very advanced, by the way, I would never even claim that I'm even a fraction of a percent there.
Yep.
But until you're at that point, the ego has to be, I wouldn't say cherished, but it has to be recognized and almost revered in a way. You know what I'm saying? We have to recognize that it has a purpose.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you surrender and you get out of the way. But at the same time, you're not just always getting, because if you just led your life like that, you'd be running all over the planet. You wouldn't be listening to any type of balance. You'd be, you know what I mean?
We got a couple minutes left. I just want to change the course a little bit and ask,
no problem, man.
What's ahead for you? So, you've, maybe just a quick little thing, what you been through in terms of spiritual experience, and like what is the next leap forward for you? Because we had a discussion. There's still a lot to be discovered. No one's really there ever.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So just a little for the people, maybe like when you look back in like 2 or 3 years, like, oh yeah, I'm glad that.
Yeah, and we get that on tape and see how it goes in 2 or 3 years. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, so I used to be a teacher. So, I was in that for like 15 years, secondary school, staying with that. And in many ways, what I do now is energy healing and teaching Reiki primarily, but doing couple therapy. I run retreats with my wife. We do a lot of this type of work, which is still energy based, but also I'm still a teacher. Do yoga practice, all this type of stuff. And where that's going in the future, again, I don't know. I don't know where that's going to go. If I, from my ego perspective, I would say, I want to keep obviously developing that business perspective, keep spreading the understanding and the exposure of Reiki and the ability to heal to as many people as I can, keep the retreats going, get that open to as many people as I can, right? But at the same time, it's like surrendering to the idea that if that's no longer the path, then I'm happy to be on a different path. So like right now, where I am right now today as of filming, Reiki feels fantastic. The couple therapy and the individual therapy and the kind of like inner empowerment therapy that I do feels like the key is in the perfect lock. It feels like a perfect fit.
Awesome.
Yeah, but 3 years from now, who knows, right? That's where resistance comes up. If in 3 years that key is not fitting that lock anymore, but I'm still trying to jam it in, that's why we get resistance, right? So just being open and malleable enough that you can flow.
So is that still something that you are going through?
All the time.
Okay.
On almost a nightly, and I would encourage, everybody watching this, if you've got a meditation practice, I do this literally nightly, every night. I'll sit down. When I'm quiet, I just say something like lead and I'll follow. That's it. Lead and I'll follow. And then I usually give some sort of an affirmation of love and gratitude. So I might say something like, everybody watching this, give it a try. Sit down, slow the breath in a dark room, ideally, so you've got even less distraction. Quiet the mind, quiet the breath. Just lead and I'll follow. With all the love and kindness and gratitude that I can give you, lead me and I'll follow. Just say that. And I say that every night. You know what I mean? And so that means tomorrow, if I'm not meant to do Reiki anymore, okay, it might be a big leap of faith because I still got to pay the bills. I've still got to make an income. You know what I'm saying? But I'll still try to make that leap if I can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And lastly, just for the people out there that resonate with what you're talking about, thank you for bringing so much value to the second episode of
my pleasure.
So tell the people like about a little bit about the Reiki and how can they work with you and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep that connection going.
For sure. Yeah. So look, if any of you happen to be in Hong Kong, you can just hit me up. You can go to my website. Like I was saying, it's brucechi.org. So BRUCECHI.org. You can check me out there. It's got my contact information on it and everything. Nice. And then globally, we're running retreats. So you can check us out at AandBtherapy.com. So AandB therapy.com. So my wife's name is Ode, so it's odeandbrucetherapy.com, right? A and B therapy.
Yes.
Hook up with us on a retreat, personal empowerment, relationship retreats, so on and so forth. And if you're here in Hong Kong and you want some energy healing, look me up. I'd be happy to see you.
And because we spoke about that a little bit, so what, for the people that are interested, let's say when they come in the door and when they come out of that door, when they work with you, what's your mission? What's the purpose that you want people to experience when they work with you?
Yeah, so when somebody comes to me for Reiki, let's just use Reiki as an example, when they're in the session, you can think about it as if I'm walking hand in hand with them on their path. I'm not guiding them, you know what I'm saying? It's, you have your journey, I've got mine, they've got theirs. The viewers, you all have your own journey. Nobody can tell you what your path is. You've got to feel it for yourself.
Right.
So in a Reiki session, what I'm doing is I'm helping them get so relaxed that the nervous system flows, that the brain flows, the chi flows, the subconscious flows. And in that, then the truth starts to come out. You know what I mean? So that little subconscious voice can become a blowhorn. It can become a voice that you can't deny anymore. And in that becomes that truth. And then I just help people understand what they're experiencing, what they witness. I help them release trauma that might be holding them back when they don't necessarily realize it. You know, like a fear of being outdoors. Let's say somebody is an agoraphobic and they're 28 years old. Okay, so that's terrible, right? And it's super limiting. What people don't seem to link until everything is put into the right focus, they don't link that maybe as a little girl or a little boy, they were on a trip in a national park or something and they almost got attacked by a bear. Okay, so that trauma has stayed with them. And it's taught them, even if it's now absurd, but it's taught them at somewhere in their body and their energetic being that being outside is dangerous. So I don't want to be outside anymore. And until that one little thing, which now is potentially seemingly so insignificant, until that one little thing is brought to the surface, released, and healed, they're always going to be agoraphobic. You know what I'm saying? So that's the type of work I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We can literally go for hours and hours on this.
For sure, man.
You know, very, very pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Always.
On tape. And more to come, I am sure.
For sure, brother. Thanks a lot.
Check Bruce out, and namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.